Welcome back to Let's Talk Careers with Miss V. I'm so excited to bring another incredible guest. Today we are meeting with Jim Peacock, who is the owner of Peak Careers Consulting. Welcome, Jim. It's so exciting to have you with me tonight.
Oh, this is great. I'm looking forward to it, Maria.
It's my evening. It's your morning. Tell us a little bit about where you are right now, Jim. I love that zooming around the world takes us to different parts of the world. So where are you right now?
I am in Maine, central Maine, United States, and it's about an hour north of Portland, an hour south of Bangor, and about an hour to the ocean.
Sounds like you're an hour away from everything.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Jim, I definitely want to be jumping into your knowledge and your wealth of information and strategies and tips for career education with young people. But before we do that, I'd like to take you back to when you were a teenager. Did you know that helping people, especially helping young people and educators and counselors with careers, was the thing for you, or did you start on a different journey?
Oh, I was clueless. I was a clueless teenager. All I wanted to do was play. I really had put very little thought into my career, unfortunately. And I remember my guidance counselor, saying, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't know." I mean, I can't imagine meeting with my guidance counselor and going, "I think I'd like to be a career coach, and own my own business." But he was like, and he basically explored, what kind of stuff you love to do, and I love the outdoors and stuff. So I kind of played around with. My senior year, started really playing around with, doing something like forestry, and that's ultimately what I ended up majoring in. But teenagers are weird people. We're at that time we're still trying to figure so much stuff out, and I was supposed to go to a forestry school in northern Michigan. I grew up in Michigan, and I basically chickened out and ended up going to Western Michigan, where a bunch of my high school buddies were, and it was really not a great choice. And I went and did environmental studies there and hated it. And so I ended up transferring to University of Wisconsin Stevens Point and getting a forestry degree. But as a teenager, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
That's really interesting that you say that, because right now we almost have two camps going on in education. The one where we're trying to encourage young people to take advantage of higher education and go, and some educators and parents and counselors are saying you're never going to waste time in education, just keep going out there and learning, and you'll figure it out when you figure it out. And then you have another camp saying take a break, take a pause, spend some time, do some discovery. Don't just jump into education. It's costly, it is time consuming. What you don't want to do is feel demotivated. Would you say that now that you reflect back, that you wish that you could have taken more time to discover? Or do you think, no, I needed that time to explore. I needed that time to realize what I didn't enjoy so that I could do what I would enjoy?
As you said, higher ed's an expensive place to explore. I mean, if you want to spend $20,000 a year, you could hire me as a career coach. I think we have way too much pressure on people to go to college. If you follow me on LinkedIn and I write about the importance of all honoring all career pathways, and the way that you do that is you expose people at a young age to more careers. And I think taking that year off and actually going and trying something, for a little while, just go out and try something. I mean, it's this design by, designing your own career. I think about my brother's 2 years younger than me. He didn't go to college right afterwards. He was like, I'm not really sure what I want to do. And he went out and worked, and he was doing some work near, sort of around this furniture design field that he ended up going into. And it was a great way, because once he decided what he wanted, once he figured out what he wanted to do by taking some action and trying some stuff, and some stuff he didn't like, and some stuff he liked, that's when he went back to college. So I love the idea, and I wish we would embrace that a lot more. That more mentality is that there's no rush. I mean, you have people are living until their 70s and 80s. People are having 2 and 3 different 20-year careers. Why rush it? Why rush it? And why spend that kind of money and time at a college unless I mean, I think for some people, if their sort of parameter of jobs is all going to lead to a 4-year college, whatever they're thinking about is indeed a 4-year college, that might make some sense. But for most people, they don't really know what they want to do.
No, they don't. And so taking us into the services that you provide, why Peak Careers? Why did you decide this is what I want to do? I want to provide professional development to career service providers. I want to help facilitate career development. Why did you choose from forestry to career development?
Yeah, that's a long path. And it's part of this idea that you have to try things to figure out if you like them. And so in my forestry degree, I actually ended up being a resident assistant in the dorms. So this was one of the benefits when I transferred. Well, not at Western Michigan. Western Michigan was not a good place for me, but Stevens Point, Wisconsin was, because I ended up being an RA and realized, hey, I really liked helping people. I really like talking to people. I really like, giving some advice to people. And then I got involved with some student activities. I never did that in high school. And I was the president of the College of Natural Resources Club and was a student manager in the student union. And that's when I discovered college student services and ended up going to get my graduate work in college student services. And I love that student services, the student development, and and I think this whole idea, I ended up being the director of student activities, my first job here in Maine at Colby College, and that's how I came to Maine from Oregon State. I was at Oregon State doing my master's work, but it was that student development stuff, and it was me being an RA in the dorms that introduced me to the idea that, hey, I really like people. Rather than being in the woods all day alone as a forestry, forestry, professional, being with those people was which is what was key. But then student activity was like, that was a high burnout job, 80-hour weeks at nights, weekends, and all that. And then I ended up going and be a school counselor. I'm like, well, I want to get back, and I still wanted to work with people. And I think that was sort of, to answer your question, that was sort of my path, try the student development. I love the fact that you're developing people. Did the school counselor stuff because I wanted to help people make decisions in schools. But then I discovered what I loved was the career piece.
It's addictive. It's addictive, Jim.
I didn't really like the counseling stuff, and I just kept gravitating to the career piece. And but I love doing trainings. So the answer to your question is I ended up in the career field because, I tried these student activity, student development, and then I did school counselor, but then I discovered the career piece and I built on that. And then I ended up back in higher ed as the director of career and advising at a community college, and loved it. But I had my side business going on because I loved doing trainings. And one of the things that frustrated me as a school counselor was it was all like one person at a time. I could help this one person with their career decision at a time. We did some group work, but it was basically one person at a time. And I did presentations at conferences, and I realized that there was a lot of people who were in the career field who got there the way I did, kind of backed into it and had very little training in the career field. And so what I kind of believed was, to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people, if I could train other career people to be better, I could affect the lives of more people. And that's really kind of where it came from. And Gifford Pinchot, who is was the father of forestry in the United States. That was his philosophy. It's kind of interesting. This is my forestry tie. Is he said we should manage the forests in this country to make the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And I went, I like that, but I do it with to affect the greatest number of people. I'm going to do the training of the career coaches and hopefully make them better at what they do. So that's, I don't know, I hope that's kind of a, I never did a straight path, like
And
many people.
and that's what Let's Talk Careers is all about. It's about sharing those stories and letting young people, parents and educators understand that it's not a linear path. Career development it's a story, it's a journey. And when a young person is facing that first milestone, it can be rather daunting. It can be really filled with concern and fear of what if I get it wrong? And often I hear, Miss V, what if I get it wrong? And I'm like, you can't get it wrong because
No.
it's a journey, but it's where do you want to begin that journey? Which will take us to how do you help career practitioners? How do you help a counselor or a practitioner to not only feel confident to support the students and the individuals that they're helping, but also to feel confident that they have enough knowledge, enough experience to help those that they care for?
Well, so one of the problems there's so many people doing career work, and they're not even oftentimes called career people. They're just doing career services. I mean, they're in adult ed, they're in the Department of Labor, they're in higher ed, they're in all these places. But many people, because they got their own way, a lot of times they think there's only that one way to do things, And so what I'm hoping is that career coaches need to have a variety of tools in their toolbox. They really should have some understanding of a variety of career theories. They should have some idea of assessments and when to use them and when not to use them. They need to pay attention to our own biases. Everybody has biases. That's what I was kind of alluding to, is that people have this is how I lost my job. I found work. This is how I found work. So everybody should find work that way. It doesn't work that way, right? I mean, we all have this lattice work. It's not a career ladder, as you said. It's not linear. It's more of lattice work. People are trying different stuff and then reinventing. And I think one of the things that I hope is that I'm helping people broaden their toolbox. So I basically started Peak Careers by being approved as a National Career Development Association instructor for this facilitating career development course. So it's their curriculum, but it's the 12 competencies that they said 30 years ago. Everybody should have this. If you're going to be a career coach, here's some competencies you should have: understanding a theory, helping skills, assessments, job employability, blah, blah, blah. And I've taken that curriculum and kind of expanded the different parts of it. So I do online seminars. They're discussion-based online seminars, like on the Holland theory. And I got one on the transition theory. And I got one on finding purpose. And I got one on happenstance theory, and then I have a bunch of other topics. But the whole idea, to answer your question, my purpose in life is to affect the lives of the greatest number of people I can. And the way I do it is, if I can make every career coach a little bit better by learning and expanding those tools, some of those skills, and being aware of their own biases, and being open to, really paying attention to what the client is presenting, not what worked for me. Just because it worked for me doesn't mean that's what my client needs today. That's really where I spend my time.
Can I take you back to a time when you were in forestry, unsure about what's the next step? I think sometimes when we retell the stories and a young person is listening to the story, there's always a happy ending. There's always I'm here right now, But young people don't really understand the transitionary emotional cycle that an individual goes through because it's not really something we spend enough time talking about. So I want to take you back as a careers practitioner today, as a trainer of careers practitioners, as someone who understands social development theories and career development theories and understands how they look in practice, but also you can empathize with an individual's journey. What was it like, or what did it feel like when you were that teenager that wasn't quite sure? And you might have been looking out at your peers who seemed to think that they knew what they were doing. And there was that peer pressure, wasn't there? Like, why am I not knowing what I want to do when my friends or my friends' friends seem to know what they want to do?
My journey at my first year and a half of college at Western Michigan, I was there because my buddies were there. And again, I had that perception that everyone else seems to know what they want to do. But Krumboltz, Mitchell, and Levin, who developed the happenstance learning theory, they've done research. Only 7% of the people are doing what they thought they were going to do when they were in high school. So even all you're in high school, you're looking around and everyone says, "Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to know what I want to do." Really, 7% of them are going to be doing that further on in their career, because most people, you're making your best guess. I was When I was just an environmental studies major at Western Michigan, I was so frustrated. I hated it, and I didn't even like myself because it was like high school just reincarnated. You know, I was with all these high school buddies, and nothing had really changed. I hadn't challenged myself. I hadn't really stayed true to myself. And so that was a very frustrating time. And I remember I dropped out. I actually dropped out at the end of the third semester and went home and worked midnights at 7-Eleven. You know, went from college and being with everybody to midnights at 7-Eleven, you know, work by myself. But I needed that. I needed to challenge myself. And then when I ended up transferring to Stevens Point, I felt like that was my true self. I was listening to myself. And I think that's one of the things that I think it's underrated. I think is we have to trust our intuitions. You know, we make decisions. You make the decision with the information that you have today. You make the best decision. Like you said, it's not right or wrong. It's left or right. It's right. I mean, it's not right or wrong. It's left or right. You're making a choice. But if you go and you trust your hunches and you kind of go, this feels right, it probably is. You'll probably gain something from that, even if it at one level doesn't work out. The $100 question is, what did you learn? You learned that I really like this, like as a school counselor. I really like the career stuff, but I didn't really like the other stuff. How do you find that out? You got to go do it. You got to go design your own careers, and you got to go try them.
I love it. I love it. I could keep asking you on and on, but I know we need to bring this to a close. Jim, your top 3 career tips are try lots of different things like activities, jobs, so you can figure out what you love to do. Be curious and ask lots of people what they do and why they like it. That's definitely something that I would say for sure, and that's why we're on this call. Why do you think it's important that young people ask about what other people do?
It's really how we learn as humans. Human beings have learned how to navigate life from caveman, cavewoman to this by being curious, by kind of going, what works, what doesn't work. And I feel like I think too often our K-12 system in education has kind of like taken curiosity out of the equation. And what we should be doing is doing everything we can to help young people be curious. And it's okay to ask your Uncle Joe, what do you do for work? You know, it's okay to ask grandpa and grandma, what did you guys do for work? I mean, ask those questions. You're hanging out at your friend's house. What do the parents do? I mean, it just blows my mind. One of my sons was dating this girl at college, and we said, well, what do your parents do? And she she couldn't answer the question what her parents did. It was like curiosity. It begins, and that's really where you begin to learn. You begin to say, what's out there? What are you doing for work? What do you like? I like doing these kinds of things. What kind of jobs are out there for me? Those are just great curiosity questions. And that's really where the learning happens. You learn you like it or you don't like it. You trust your hunches, pay attention to it.
I love this. Okay, so your final tip, and I'm giggling because I can almost hear parents saying, "What are you telling our children?" Be open to discovering things by accident, you say. You describe it as intentional serendipity. Can you describe what you mean? And I can hear parents going, "No, that doesn't work. We're paying for university. We need to make sure our kids are going to get on that right track." What is intentional serendipity, and why do you think that this is something that we should allow young people to do?
This thinking on intentional serendipity really came out of my introduction to the happenstance learning theory, and I really, which kind of says you can create luck, and there's actually research that shows you can create luck, and really, what I like about intentional serendipity is it you do have to be intentional. Whatever we do, if we're gonna move forward in our careers and or encourage young people to do that, people need to be intentional. They need to go out and be curious. They need to go volunteer someplace. They need to go get a part-time job someplace. They need to go out, and if they're taking a class, if they're taking a psychology class at college or even in high school, ask the teacher, what kind of jobs come out of this? I mean, if you have a there's professors at colleges that are been teaching psychology and they have advisees, they know where people are going with this psych degree. It doesn't matter what they're teaching. These people know where the jobs are and what they are, and you can listen to that. Be curious. So be intentional. So being intentional, and it's not like it's freewheeling. Just be intentional. Try stuff. I often said to people, thinking about being a veterinarian in high school, go volunteer in your local vet shop. Do it. Go there every day and empty the garbage. And you know what you're going to find after 2 months? One, you're going to know what a veterinarian does, but you're probably going to know what a vet tech does. You're probably going to know what a veterinarian assistant does. You're probably going to have met the pharmaceutical, the people who sell the drugs to the veterinarians. And they're probably going to hire you because you've been there every day emptying the garbage, right? That's intentional. Now, the serendipity part is nobody knows all the jobs out there. You and I we don't know every job that's out there. There's no way. And so the serendipity part is really saying, I think it's forestry, but what else is out there? I go and I take that step, and I walk that line, and I try it. I try some classes. I get a degree in it. I might have worked in it in a little bit, but the whole time I'm watching and I'm being open to discovering opportunities by accident, and the whole other side of that is you have to pay attention to what are the things that you love to do. You want to know, you want to learn that. And sometimes people need help being able to articulate it. But, I chose forestry, here I am, a huge extrovert. And then, my dad, like 10 years ago, goes, "You were always talking to everybody." And I'm like, why didn't you tell me that when I was a kid? I might not have gone into forestry, but I also have no regrets. You kind of hinted at this. I have no regrets. You make decisions with what you have, and you go forward, and you learn. If it's even if you lose, you learn.
One final tip for a career practitioner out there helping young people today. What do you want them to remember?
Well, one, don't be afraid of failure. Failure is where we learn. And I think that's another sort of obstacle for people. They're afraid to try something because they're going to fail at it. The reality is, failing is where you learn. You don't get on a bike the first day and start riding it. You fall off your bike 100 times, right? But when you get done, you can ride a bike, and it's really no different in the world of work. I mean, people have got to to just embrace failure and basically say, I'm going to go try that. I'm going to go see if Maria will talk to me. Yeah, she will. Jim will talk to Maria. We've talked to each other. We didn't know each other before, but we were willing to do it. And it's this fear of failure that holds so many people back. And so I think that if there's one piece of advice, that would certainly be another one.
Thank you so much for being with me here today, Jim. I know it's early for you and it's the end of our day, so we're going to bring this to a wrap, and we're going to just really enjoy, I think, the nuggets that you gave us. So if you're tuning in right now, Jim was talking to us about careers education, his career journey, some tips for young people, and of course, a reminder to practitioners, don't be afraid of failing. It's all about learning. And that brings us right to the end of another incredible conversation. We met with Jim Peacock, who is the owner of Peak Careers Consulting. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the next Let's Talk Careers with Miss B.